Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Sorry that I'm a little late with the video. It has been an extremely busy week for me so far, and just now I'm actually getting time to sit down and record something. So you're still going to get it today, but I'm recorded in the morning, hence the delay. Anyway, what we are looking at today is HMS Renown, but not the Renown that we have in the tech tree at Tier 6. No, this is the 1944 Renown at Tier 7. Now, HMS Renown has been affectionately known as HMS Refit, which, given the history of that thing, is a very fitting nickname. She was laid down in the First World War, but made it just in time to miss the Battle of Jutland and not get blown up catastrophically. So she didn't do an awful lot anymore in the First World War, and then was, well, refit several times during the interwar period. One in the 1920s that did add additional armor, and one in the late 30s that was doing a relatively comprehensive refit of scraping the superstructure off, the guns and everything else, and making it as good as new, including the engines. And then, obviously, she has been serving, but this is the 1944 refit. So we are once again looking at a refit in 1943, where her anti-aircraft armament was significantly improved by just literally plastering 20mm Oerlikons all over the thing. I think they had about 70 odd barrels at that point, and she was a bit bristling with that. And 1944, she would have actually been in the Pacific. This isn't particularly widely known that the British were actually fighting alongside the Americans in the Pacific against Japan in the later stage of the Pacific War. So she was still active in the Pacific with shore bombardment and similar duties, and subsequently was then scrapped after the war had ended, and no more refits at that point. So, 1939, we'll call her the 1939 Renown, because that's probably what she is. Did get 3 engine boosts and 2 defensive AAs. The 1944 Renown gets a better engine boost, a better defensive AA, and she gets a sonar, and she gets an extra heal. On top of that, she gets a couple more hit points, a bit better fire and flooding resistance, and slightly better engines, which is astonishingly historically accurate. The guns are obviously pretty much the same. They just reload a second faster. But yeah, they're 6 guns. So relatively low armament of main guns here. And we do have more of the 113mm secondaries with a slightly improved range. Now you see the irritating thing with the original Renown about the secondaries is that if this was before the 1936 to 1939 refit, she would have had the 102mm secondaries. If this was after the 1936 to 1939 refit, and yes, please insert British printing themselves a new ship joke here at this point, she would have had 10 twin mounts of the 113mm. But I don't think at any point in time did she have 4 twin mounts, as in the tech tree Renown here. So this is an unfortunate in-game modification mechanic-wise that has reduced that. But they have corrected that with the 1944 version, which now has the correct number of 4.5-inch or 113, 114mm secondaries. Still, they are relatively low caliber, but we've got a slightly better range there. Now, the fun bit about the Renown has always been the amount of torpedoes that thing can put in the water. Now, historically, the 1944 refit of the Renown would not have had torpedo tubes, but this is a purely in-game mechanic here. These torpedo tubes have seen a significant uptick, and this is where the main buff for the Tier 7 hop has come in. So instead of the somewhat anemic, distinctly German ranged single-fire torpedoes we had at Tier 6, we now get a significant boost in damage output, and we get a whopping 8.4 kilometer range on these things. And these things are single fire plus have relatively decent forward angles. So you can fire 4 each side. You can't fire spread because they are single fired, but you've got relatively good forward angles, which isn't due to any kind of design choice. It's not that they actually had some sort of outrigger torpedo tubes or anything like that, or deck torpedo tubes. No, these would have been underwater torpedo tubes, but I think this is more of a nod towards the mechanic on PC, where the torpedoes are sort of guided in that they take a little, they do a little twirl and then go and target. Anyway, we have a significant upgrade in the punch that these torpedoes, even though on paper they are exactly the same, provide in-game. The other thing, and this makes me happy, she's got a significantly better AA at this point, because, I mean, we're in tier 7 still, and the small caliber AA range is a bit on the short side, but that is a nice little buff, together with adding an air defense too. So now we now get 100% on both of these. So with the air defense alert up, she is definitely able to shoot a plane or two down. The concealment has been improved as well, which is great news because this is a battle cruiser. This is not a battleship. And I think the emphasis is a little bit on the cruiser side, because even the battleships in the British line, and again, this is due to game mechanics here, don't have the best armor in the world. So yeah, do be careful. But that makes for a couple of interesting improvements. The main ones obviously being the torpedoes being significantly better than in the other tier, and her having a decent amount of AA. You can get the torpedo damage reduction, but honestly, you'd be a fool if you did. Why is that, Terry? Why do you always keep complaining about the torpedo damage reduction? Okay, let me do a very brief detour here. The Renown has a 12% torpedo damage reduction, which means that if you get hit by a torpedo, 12% of that damage gets reduced, and then what's left is what you take damage in hit points. Now, a 10% torpedo damage reduction improvement from the elite bonus does not mean that you suddenly get a 22%. No, this is multiplicative. You get a 13.2% improvement. So a whopping 1.2% damage less taken. Which, if you let's say we're talking about, I don't know, 3,500 points of alpha damage on a torpedo. We're talking probably, I don't know, 40 hit points that you're not taking from that torpedo. It's not an awful lot. So it really, and I mean, you're in a battle cruiser and you've got sonar. You shouldn't be running into torpedoes in the first place. So no, most of the time the torpedo defense system elite bonus is a waste, pretty much. I mean, it's not a waste. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just that the other one's much better because it gives you a faster reload on the mains and better turret traverse. Which means we can also equip the main battery mod 2 here. And these turrets are reasonably sturdy, so I haven't had massive problems with getting my turrets shot off yet. And get our reload down even further. And yes, this is a battle cruiser, so we're building that thing for concealment. Then if you're putting the camouflage on, unfortunately you don't actually get a further concealment rating. But the historical camo gives hit points, main battery range, secondary battery range, and torpedo range. So all over range. The industrial camo, which does have a little bit of a steampunk sort of theme going on here, but doesn't all in. If you ignore that sort of gaslight at the front here, and no, I haven't just gaslit the camo. It doesn't look completely terrible, so it's sort of doable as a visual camo. But that thing gives hit points, main battery range, main battery dispersion, but fortunately not torpedo damage reduction, but instead main battery max traverse speed on the ship, which is good because you're in a battle cruiser. So this is also a good camouflage. It's just a little bit more focused on the mains, whereas the other one is a bit more focused on the torpedoes and the secondaries. And the torpedoes, in my opinion, are where this ship really shines. So I'm not complaining there. Well, what was I saying? Yes, we have, with everything kitted out, a 7.78 kilometer surface detection and an 8.7 kilometer torpedo range. Yes, this is a battleship that can theoretically stealth torp. And it's got single fire torpedoes, and they pack a punch, and it's tier 7. So you get yourself into tier 6 games where things, not everyone's paying attention all the time. So definitely an opportunity for shenanigans to be had. Although you don't have a large margin, so, Last thing we need to look at, the commander skills. There are a couple of things that you probably want to do. With both sonar and defensive AA, it makes sense to get the battlefield support and the air defense expert. The recon and surveillance skill is debatable. If you want to take it, you guys might as well get exploit weakness, which is also a good skill to have, or generalist, which I am not actually against either. Now, you don't have a precise aim, and as such, or a rapid reload, and as such, you can take the survivalist. There are legendary commanders out with Survivalist Plus, which gives you even more. But given that sheet doesn't have a super heal and doesn't have the large amount of base hit points, I'm kind of okay with just this one. But it's definitely a good choice, and followed by the fully prepared, because you get an extra heal. You have 4 repair kits on the ship, so you do want to double check that I'm not talking nonsense here. Yes, 4 repair kits. So you definitely want to repair early and reduce the cooldown time that you have here. Now, I have picked Tovey because he's the only commander in the British line that gets the APCS Plus. Still, the guns are not the main guns are not the greatest feature. First, she only gets 6 of them, but we do have the reload down at this point to just under 16 seconds. So while she only does get 6 of them, with the setup we've got, she does fire them relatively frequently. 2 battles I have today for you, of course, as usual. One with a sort of standard setup, regular consumables, regular camo, and a 7-point commander. And one here with the fully decked out Renown with Tovey and APCS Plus and everything else. Now, before we start getting into the battles, one thing I have to mention, because I'm sure someone's going to point it out. A competitive ship, this is not. If you get yourself into a tier 8 game, things get dicey. The ship has very poor armor and can be taken apart really, really quickly. That said, it's a bit of a Gneisenau sort of situation. If you are top tier, and we are going to be top tier in both battles today, and if the enemy team isn't paying the most of attentions, you can have a lot of fun in this ship. And it is, how am I going to put this? It is pleasantly multi-role. Anyway, let's get going. Central Control, Golden Channel, mid-tier, hey! Against Independence, Colorado, Mackensen, an Omono, a Nürnberg, and a Fushun. Now, this isn't going to be a case of my team is bimbling around everywhere and the enemy team is just running around exploring the treasure chests that may be in the big island there in the east and west. But both teams are doing a reasonably decent job of trying to contest the capture circle, which we'll credit to, education and everything. Anyway, we've got a bot here, but we do have an Akatsuki of ourselves. Obviously, the Fushun is relatively dangerous, and there is a carrier. So we'll be making ourselves useful by providing air cover where we can. And with the engine boost up, she does almost 34 knots, which isn't like racing of any sorts, but is a reasonable amount of speed for a battlecruiser to have. And unfortunately, we can't get into the enemy airstrike on the get-go, but that Independence is going to be losing some planes for sure. We are air spotted, obviously, and we will be making our way in, and there is the enemy Fushun contesting the capture circle in a defensible position. What did I tell you? And there's the enemy Omono doing the same thing on the other side, and look, the carrier is attacking the Fushun on our side. What is going on here? Everybody's understanding how to play Golden Channel all of a sudden. You see, that's why you sit in that position, because now the Omono is relatively safe from my guns at least. And there's the Nürnberg and the Mackensen coming in. Mackensen obviously being a battle cruiser as well. But here comes the fun part, because I have 8.4 kilometer range torpedoes. I can absolutely cover the single fire torpedo, cover the corners there if anybody is so unlucky to poke their nose out of them. Now the Pensacola is a bot, so the Pensacola is going to die, and there comes the carrier, and since I'm the most exposed here, I am going to get the airdrop, which I honestly prefer over the carrier going after the Akatsuki. The Fushun has been poking out, and we'll be using our first heal. Like I said, I aggressively heal first, but obviously now we have used our damage control, so everyone's going to try and set permafires. Fushun has smoked up. And the Independence is getting, I think, a little more aggressive than he wants to. Now Mackensen shooting at me, and I've got some torpedoes away. Like you see, the main guns are kind of average in what they do. Or Nürnberg, you might be running into my torpedoes. Obvious Fushun torpedoes were obvious, so we don't need to do anything. We don't need to waste a sonar for those ones. But yeah, someone is HE spamming me here, and I think, yeah, Nürnberg's taken 2 torpedoes. These weren't even meant for you. These were meant for the Omono if he was poking his nose out. There comes the Independence again. That's another fire. That's normal. That's just the normal deal. But you're in a battle cruiser, so now it's time to duck back into cover and let the Fuso, which is an actual battleship, do some of the tanking. And the Independence has joined his team in the capture circle, which is brave, but also, well, not going to go too well. So we're holding the capture circle. It's 1 kill each, and because the enemy team is not completely in the capture circle, they are not actually going to get it that easily, even with the help from the Independence. And the problem, obviously, for the Independence being that, well, he is well within my gun range now. We just have to keep dodging the torpedoes that are coming in, and just happily unload at the Independence. Now, usually if you're in a battle cruiser and you're in a very static sort of battle like this, you have relatively poor armor and you don't have an awful lot of... Oh, the Fushun, look at that, the Fushun is trying to smoke up the Independence. Isn't that glorious? I love it when the teams play together. Yeah, you're gonna have to manage your health a little bit, but okay, New Mexico takes out the Independence. The thing is, this thing has long-range torpedoes, so even if you're in the back row to recover your hit points, you're still going to be quite useful. Carrier goes after the Fushun, and who might still be sitting in his smoke screen, and I do have to be careful with the Colorado 16-inchers, because those hurt. But again, I'm going to drop some torpedoes here, and Fushun, yes, has indeed been sitting in his smoke screen. And I'm not sure if he has seen me or not, but we'll get some shots out. Oh, that's a low-health Nürnberg, maybe we can catch him. Not quite, but now Fushun might have torpedoes away somewhere if he was paying attention. These torpedoes may just hit the Omono over there, even though they were actually meant for the Colorado in case he was poking his nose out. But I can... Oh, he dodges. Nicely done, Omono. Like I said, all around good gameplay here. But yeah, the enemy team has been hammered into submission. Colorado doesn't have the hit points anymore. Fushun has to vacate. Nürnberg is out of hit points, trying to preserve his hit points, but the carrier is not having any of it. Sorry, try to preserve the points of the team. Look at that. The Nürnberg is a one-shot kill for anybody, so he's trying to just preserve. I mean, it's not helping because they're down over 400 points, but. Look at the all-out, decent gameplay here around. I am surprised. Anyway, the enemy team has been hammered into submission at this point, so we can switch on the engine boost and take a look at the dispersion on those guns. See, that's one of the other things. You actually need to often manual aim because they are relatively precise. So if you want to do things like hit the deck, then manual aim, like what I'm doing here right now, is a better choice, and then you actually get them not hitting the belt, and we get one more shot out. That should be the Colorado. Fushun is chasing. He's given up because there's no way they're going to win, so he's just trying to score some damage here. Well played though, and I'm chasing down that Nürnberg, who is trying to escape, but that's not going to happen because we have a carrier. So now all I have to manage is to hit this thing. But you sort of see what I mean. What I mean with yeah, Fushun, you've earned that one. I'll let you have that one. what I mean with this ship is quite useful in many regards. So you can tank a little bit in the front row for just using HP because you got 4 heals. You can then retreat again, and you can actually get a surprising amount of weapon systems on target with the long range torpedoes if you need to, and you've got some air defense. You've got the sonar. There's a lot of utilities. If you're thinking more of think of it less of a battleship and more of a very large cruiser. I think that's sort of what I'm getting to. Think of it as a very large cruiser with that can HP tank and that can do a surprisingly fun amount of damage with those torpedoes. And I mean, like I said, if you get yourself into a tier 8 game, things might look a little differently. But if you can play mid-tier, you can certainly come out on top, even if both teams are playing actually really, really well, as they have here. The second game is another carrier game, but they're bot carriers, so not a huge threat, especially that they're not American. And there is a fail division in the enemy team, but not any kind of old fail division. No, it's a bottom tier fail division, a bottom tier triple fail division. So the enemy Andrea Doria is divisioned up with a König and a Chongqing, which, given that they're in a tier 7 game, means that these tier 5s are probably going to be have a bit of a struggle here. Anyway, we are facing Andrea Doria, the König, the Atlanta, the Chongqing, a Mayhem, and an Akatsuki on Aurora in base capture. So, again, Renown 44 Battlecruiser with the emphasis on cruiser here. It's a little bit like in the Scharnhorst. You don't have the greatest main guns in the world, but you do have some alternative armaments that can be quite entertaining. So you don't really have to be too afraid to get into battles even with enemy destroyers, because unlike the tier 6 Renown, you actually have a sonar, you have the correct amount of secondary turrets, and you have a bunch of torpedoes that can make every destroyer's life relatively difficult. So I am just going to sail around the right flank. One of our destroyers is trying to sink the mountain. I'm going to let them go first and scout, but usually someone is going to come around this flank here. So I'm assuming that my two... No. Where are you go... Oh, come on, people. Where the heck are you going? What now? No, not this way. Go. No, go that way. There. The Fubuki is shooting his guns uselessly. No, man. Where the hell are you going? Oh dear, it's going to be one of those games, is it? Alright, enemy König is spotted, so I may as well start shooting. And actually the Fubuki is running away as well. Okay, I'm going to hold my guns. Okay, I'm detected. So there is a destroyer out here. Yep, there's the enemy Akatsuki. And sonar up. Let's see where the Akatsuki's torpedoes are, but he has been relatively surprised by me, so let's just drop some torpedoes in his general direction. And there come the Akatsuki's torpedoes, but we knew that we were that we were spotted. We knew there was a destroyer out there because nothing else here can outspot us that easily. And we have the sonar running, so there's no danger of taking those torpedoes. And after that threat has been avoided, we can start unloading. Oh, Atlanta. Atlanta, yeah, let's shoot at Atlanta. Very, very lightly armored cruiser, fully broadside. And this is with APCS Plus, so let's see what we can make happen here. And that's disappointing, honestly. Semi-pens. See, it's not about the main guns on the ship. And, oh, hello, Mr. Akatsuki, you're coming in for another run. Okay, Atlanta is setting me on fire. We'll let that burn for now, because that's an Akatsuki. He might have torpedoes ready. And my torpedoes unfortunately on the port side are still real. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. WASD hacks engaged. Yeah, nah. And that is a mistake you will not be repeating, because you are now being torpedoed by a Renown. You can't claim that you didn't know the Renown has torpedoes, to be honest, because the existing Renown also gets torpedoes, and at this range they would have absolutely been able to hit. Let's get the engine boost up again. We're actually doing better with the HE here on the Atlanta now. This is not a HE battlecruiser. It's just that the guns aren't really the greatest, but they can hit and they can reload relatively quickly, and we might be getting, I don't know, like a Citadel on the Atlanta, maybe? Nah, not still semi-pens on that thing. Sonar up because Atlanta probably has torpedoes away, and then we'll drop some torps on the König. Is he not getting torpedoes off? Oh, no, there they come. Okay, I might have had to turn in a little bit faster, but well, we might still avoid most of them. And I think we'll take one. Yeah, and I'm already healing back up. So König should be running into my torpedoes, which means we can focus our fire on the Atlanta, which is once again setting fires, because that's what Atlantas do. Can we get a Citadel on the Atlanta? No, we can't. König has taken 4 torpedoes, but has survived. Why am I fighting that tier? Where's my team, by the way? Oh, my team has died. Okay, it sounds like we need to do something about that. So let's begin by killing the König, because those torpedoes are never gonna hit. And then we'll try to keep our Akatsuki alive, which is in a close range engagement with an Atlanta. And I've got him almost, all you have to do is dodge and engine boost up, shots out. I have the Atlanta, but not before the Atlanta takes down the Akatsuki. He got his guns away, so now it's interesting, 2-on-2, but we're leading by 20 points because we have killed an extra battleship. And that means I'm going to get myself into the enemy capture circle, because if those two are taking down the battleship that sits in our capture circle, and I'm not sure if that's AFK or not, if they take that down, then they'll be ahead on points. So I'm going to head into the enemy capture circle as quickly as my little British battlecruiser will make it, and then we'll see what happens next. We've still got 2 minutes, so I still might be able to cap them. And I mean, I'm not going to win by capping because they are in our capture circle as well, but if it takes them a second to get the friendly battleship sunk, which doesn't appear to be AFK. Okay, now there's 2 of them in the capture circle, but because of the Akatsuki earlier sitting in the friendly cap, and he would have capped them out by now if he hadn't been sunk by the Atlanta, which was the whole idea. Oh, nice! The Colorado takes out the cruiser. Very well done. So even if the Colorado gets sunk, we are 90 points ahead. Battleship is worth 80, so we'll be 10 points ahead. Plus, I will be starting to flip the enemy capture circle. And even if we are not getting, even if we're not winning by capping, that means they're no longer getting a points income. So even if the Colorado goes down, we've still got this. So we've won at this point. There's no way that the enemy team can still win. But given the fail division in the enemy team, that has been a surprisingly close result. And yes, the Andrea Doria actually takes out the Colorado, but we're about 20 points ahead, and we are having a points income. The enemy team does not. Now we don't have a points income either, but we are 24 points ahead, and 22 points ahead, and that should be sufficient. So, Renown 44. It's not a battleship, and this becomes even more apparent at tier 7 that this is not a battleship. Oh, Andrea Doria comes out for is still in the capture circle somewhere there, maybe? Is he coming out? Anyway, it's not a battleship, treated as an uber heavy cruiser, and focus on, say, the torpedo armament. And yeah, your only chance was to sink me. You couldn't win anymore, so anyway, just getting a little bit more damage here. You were actually having a surprising amount of fun on these ships, especially with the 8-kilometer range torpedoes. It makes such a difference to be able to hit targets or to threaten targets at a long range that otherwise you wouldn't really have any opportunity to engage. So I think this is still a very fun ship, especially in random games. It's probably not like a major competitive game or gaming ship or anything like that. But for randoms, it's certainly absolutely fun, especially obviously if you're top tier. But even if you're bottom tier, you just don't play as aggressively and you can still make yourself quite useful. Anyway, that's all I had for today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.